I'm back, and depending on the Coyotes winning when I'm gone and losing when I'm here, that may or may not be a good thing.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets, $25 moneyline bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. I'm your host, Robin Leon, alongside Matthew Jacobson, who's back from his vacation. Hope it was good. Hope it was well deserved, Matthew. I think you seem a little bit more well rested than me over the last week. But who am I to say? But the Arizona Coyotes, Matthew, during your vacation, including this game that we just watched, have won 3 straight games.
Yeah. Can I just say a little presumptuous? I wasn't sleeping very well the last couple of days, so I think Robin got more sleep than me the last. I was up at 3:30.
Dude, I
worked a Steam Deck. What else was I gonna do?
I worked like freaking like 3 doubles in the last week.
Honestly, I wanted to try to force us to leave earlier. I wanted to get back to work tonight. I was ready to just work again.
You know, sometimes it'd be like that. But let's talk about this game though, Matthew, because the Arizona Coyotes. Obviously, I already talked a little bit about the Vegas game and the Tampa Bay game. We had Mike Gold on post game for the Tampa Bay game. Now we're focusing on this game, the Avalanche game, and their 3rd straight win, and a high scoring affair too. I thought, honestly, I was like, I just don't know what I felt about this game, but they pulled it off and won their 3rd straight game over yet another recent Stanley Cup champion.
It's funny. I come back from vacation just as confused about this hockey team because when I was leaving, they just dropped 3 in a row. Now they win 3 in a row, and the aggressive mediocrity continues. However, Juuso Välimäki was back tonight, and I noted it on Twitter before I forget. I want to say it right here. I noticed the same thing tonight as I noticed the first couple of games Välimäki played in his Coyotes tenure. The defense just looks better when he plays. And the defense was having some struggles, so good to have him back. Juuso, good to have you back, even though there are now 2 players wearing a cage because way too many jaw injuries.
I think you are right. Those are a lot of things I was concerned about while you were gone, and the defense just looked kind of torn apart. I was going to ask the question. I was like, is it time to just revisit the Hanifin discussion because they just need? And then Välimäki comes back, and I'm like, nah, we're good.
Well, because Dumba misses the 1 game. Kolyachonok is now out week to week, long term, which sucks for that kid because he's been playing pretty well in the AHL. Finally gets a game, and that happens. Then you get Juuso coming back. I think Dumba only missed the 1 game. Dumba played okay tonight. I kind of feel like my opinion of him as a whole has been he's playing mediocre. There's room to improve. I agree with Bill Armstrong there. But it's the defense as a whole just looks better now that Välimäki's back. Now if you just get Dermott back.
Look more complete.
Yeah. You just get Dermott back, they should be fine. And nothing against Kesselring.
Kesselring's actually been fine too.
Honestly, I should have said nothing against Stetcher. I like Stetcher. He got an assist tonight. I wouldn't mind Kesselring getting a game or 2, with Stetcher scratched. Stetcher or Brown, one of the 2 when Dermott comes back, because Kesselring's been playing fine.
Yeah, no, that's actually one of the discussions that I had with Mike Gold on Tuesday's show or Wednesday's show, as I'm losing track of my days here.
They're all a blur.
Yeah. No, and we were saying that it feels as if Kesselring is trying to make a statement for himself to be like, just try and send me back down. Just try.
honestly, when this defense heals up a little bit, and I brought him up a couple of times, this is not a knock at Josh Brown or anything. I wouldn't mind if they tried to move Josh Brown to give Kesselring that spot. Because I know it's mostly been sheltered minutes, but he's looked fine. Exciting young defenseman, add some energy to the lineup. Obviously, coaches like their veterans. Once again, it's not a shot against Josh Brown. I like Josh Brown well enough, but I kind of feel like both him and Stetcher fill the same role. So if Kesselring steps up and if he keeps playing well, I would personally explore to see if there's a market out there for a team that just needs a seventh defenseman for a 7th-round pick. Nothing major.
No, it certainly is. That's a discussion for down the road, but we'll see what happens in this short term. How much they're able to keep it together. Mm-hmm. One more player I want to highlight, Matthew, and I talked about it on Wednesday's show as well. I was like, I called it that episode as the Michael Carcone show because Michael Carcone had 2 goals against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mm-hmm. And he goes again and scores another one against the Colorado Avalanche. This dude, Matthew, has 10 goals this season.
Mm-hmm.
He's tied, I believe, if I believe I'm not mistaken, tied for the most or has the most for the Arizona Coyotes right now.
I'm actually fact checking a couple of stats as we speak because I believe it was McConnell. I actually got to watch the full game sitting on the recliner, shuffling through Digimon cards. It was a phenomenal evening. I got to just watch a hockey game, not having to work it. And I believe he said that is 7 goals in his last 10 games. So I want to fact check that real quick. I want to make sure I heard that correctly. Or like 7 and 10 or something. So 2, 3, 4. It's like 5 in his last. It's like 5 in his last 8. So I must have heard that incorrectly, or it wasn't updated for tonight's. No, it wasn't updated for tonight. So it's right about there. He's on a ridiculous pace right now. I'm so glad that Carcone guy is on this team right now, and he is, give me the goals, tied with Lawson Krause. It's a 2-way tie with 10 goals.
2-way tie at 10 goals. That's
and I was
amazing.
Really hoping that Michelli would have hit Krauser because Krauser was 1 away from tying the record, and I could have made a video about, Howardchuk and McBain, or are the 2 that are tied for that record, most goals in a month. It's ridiculous.
It's amazing, and I can only hope that these players continue that momentum. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to think they're, to some extent, Matthew, but they do. After beating, like I said, the last 3 Stanley Cup champions back to back to back.
The Coyotes are winning the Cup in 2025. Remember the Coyotes Stanley Cup champion 2025 meme from a couple years ago? Or bringing it back?
Not a joke. Not a joke anymore.
Look, they're back in the playoffs. I brought the standings up real quick. They're back in the playoffs. I think Calgary won tonight. So Calgary, if the Coyotes would have lost in overtime, I think Calgary technically would have had the tiebreaker, but they have 24 points. Calgary is 23. St. Louis is 25. Winnipeg is 26. The Coyotes are 2 points out of top 3 in the division. And I said a week and a half in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure now the total days is at least a week and a half. So, the injuries, the 2018-19 injuries are back. The teasing with playoff, the teasing around there that they're doing right now. I'm just saying they're making the playoffs next year, and screw it, they're winning the Cup.
We'll have to see. Well, we definitely have a lot to get to still on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. We're going to get to Matthew's patented goal summary, as well as just some other thoughts about this game before taking a look ahead to the to the last 2 games of this quote Stanley Cup gauntlet. We'll get to that right after this.
And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL season stays hot on FanDuel. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if the Arizona Cardinals win a football game. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get into the action. The app is so easy to use with a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Thanks again, everyone, for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on the Sirius XM radio app and ad-free on Amazon Music. Matthew, let's get to, before we break down the rest of our thoughts, let's get to your patented goal summary.
Patented goal scoring summary. Let's go, boys. Anyway, with about 29 seconds to go in the first period, one Cale Makar on the power play, his 7th of the season from Rotten and Nichushkin. Go to the second period where Travis Boyd originally did go to Liam O'Brien, but not to be, because Travis Boyd got a tip on this one, 3:03 the second period, his 2nd from Liam O'Brien and Yanis Moser. Wood answers back about a minute and a half later, his 4th from Jones and Colton at 4:44. Then Nicholas Schmaltz on the power play at 16:22, his 6th from Kerfoot and Keller. We are all tied heading into the third period, where Michael Carcone, team tied for the top of goals in the season. I probably said that incorrectly. We're going with it anyway. His 10th from Stetcher and Kesselring at 108. Kesselring, 3 assists in the season, by the way. Small stint. Before McKinnon, this was a snipe. McKinnon sniped it. This was not Ingram's fault. That McKinnon is just a cheat code. His 8th, Makar and Rotten on the power play at 11:04. Then we go to overtime. I'm pretty sure we're going to touch on what probably should have been a penalty shot, but Nick Bukestad is 5th from Michelli and Dursey at 4:39, and that is your overtime winner. 4-3, the Coyotes win, and I get to watch, relaxed, watch a win while I'm yelling at my TV like a drunk uncle.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that brings us to some of the breakdown thoughts, and I think for me, in terms of the thoughts, in terms of it's asking questions about to Matthew, and he pick his brain, get his thoughts. First of all, Matt, goalie situation. The Coyotes have rode the hot hand and given Connor Ingram all the last 3 starts. Have they found their de facto starter at this point?
I am really high on Connor Ingram. All right, I will acknowledge. I was memeing on him a little bit when that waiver claim, because he was the one that gave up like 5 goals to the Coyotes in the last game in Glendale. However, after a rough start to his Coyotes tenure, he's been borderline lights out. Like, he's been the more consistent of the 2 goaltenders. What is it? 1 more year left on his contract. I'm trying to get everything up to organize my thoughts as much as possible. Through 12 games this year, 8 wins, 1 shutout, 249 goals against, 924 save percentage. Probably in the 27 this year, they probably found their goaltender. Here's the thing. I'm going to be slightly cynical for like 5 seconds. Bear with me here. I want to see it continue, and I want to see them add like a decent backup goaltender. Once again, it's not meant to be a shot at Vejmelka or anything. I think Ingram is the better of the 2. I've been saying this all season. I think you probably have, might be a little early to definitively say like goalie of the future kind of guy, but he is the definitive starter right now. And it's great to see. What is it? 3-game win streak for him. He is playing lights
including a shutout to the Vegas over last week.
The defending Stanley Cup champions. That is right. I think I was watching that game. I remember watching parts of it. I don't know. This entire week's been a blur.
It's been a lot. Yeah, it's been a lot. But so that's definitely your thoughts. And I feel like, yeah, that's definitely a good point to make. And I think we'll have to see in due time and see exactly what the Coyotes do with goaltending. But it seems like they're pretty comfortable with Connor Ingram right now. And yeah, sure, they're probably going to give Vejmelka a start, in the next couple games or so, because they don't want to overwork Ingram, because that's just how it works in the in the NHL goalie world. Thanks, Rick Tocchet, for making that mistake before.
What was it? 23 games, 24 games in a row. I'm never going to forget that.
No, we're not. No, absolutely not. The freaking 12 games back to back for freaking Aiden Hill when he was still Like,
they broke Hilly until he had to go get patched up in Vegas, and now it's like, oh man, if they like Aiden Hill would have never became what he is right now in Arizona. He was a good fringe guy here. He did need to go elsewhere to get that actual like opportunity with good.
And it took him two other teams because it didn't work in San Jose, and then he went to Vegas and became a Stanley Cup champion.
And that was after like 3 goalies ahead of him died. Like he had to have like injury after like it would not have happened here.
No, you're absolutely right. All right, next up question, and you mentioned it in your goal scoring summary. That overtime scenario that happened, or the term I'm looking for, the series of events in overtime that led to the penalty. I feel like on social media, a lot of Coyotes fans were calling for it, and you kind of even were, like I said, and you even mentioned it. Should it have been a penalty shot?
I'm gonna say no. And I'm not going to say no because it actually shouldn't have been. I'm just going to say no because whatever reason they're going to give, I'm just going to not question it because they won anyway. Also because like the initial contact of stick to puck I think was legal. So I think it's because it's like a follow through thing. It's a penalty, not a penalty shot. So I'm just going to go ahead and say no because I'm assuming that's the justification, and I don't want to get into a giant goal or a referee argument.
Yeah, no, my assumption was like maybe it wasn't a blatant or a quote blatant or obvious obstruction on a breakaway. Would
it have been a clear breakaway thing? Like he did, have a breakaway.
He did have a breakaway, but was it a clear breakaway? I think that's probably the question between yes and no, whatever it might have been. Because I feel like because the defender was tailing, it was like neck and neck essentially.
And like Bukestad had about, I'm going to give him at least a skater ahead of him. Like it's about that much space. And it's a slashing penalty that Bowen Byram takes in overtime. And like I said, when I watched the replay, it looked like that initial like stick on puck contact was legal. That's why I'm assuming it was something like after the shot. That's why it probably wasn't.
Yeah, maybe momentum was broken before the actual penalty.
Maybe.
Like
it's so weird.
Again, like we're speculating. The refs made the decision on the time. I'm not going to complain too much because the Coyotes still ended up winning with Nick Bukestad getting credited with the game-winning goal. Anyways,
it worked out anyway.
It went down.
It worked out anyway.
It worked out anyway.
He didn't need to go to the penalty shot. He got the job done. Although I was hoping for the Michelli to Krause. I don't remember if Michelli got a point in the last home game, but I was going off the assumption that he did. He got the assist on the game winner tonight. I was hoping Michelli to Krause. Krause ties the record. Michelli keeps the streak going, unless I missed that in the last game.
Maybe. Last question for you before we take a preview looking ahead. As of right now, do you classify the Arizona Coyotes the hottest team in the NHL?
Well, in the nice little Arizona bubble I like to put myself in, yes. Because they're playing hot right now, and I don't care about the other teams very much.
The Yotes are a wagon.
Yotes are, although I will acknowledge Calgary's made a pretty good run of it.
Nashville's had a long winning streak after they lost to Arizona.
Edmonton's won the last 4. Like there are some hot teams, like just to add on to what you're saying. However, I like my Arizona bubble, Robin. So yeah, they're a wagon.
I mean, and again, you just got to consider the teams that Arizona beat versus the teams that you know where I'm getting at here.
I know you're throwing some shade. Okay, I got.
Anyways, we're going to take a look ahead what's coming up for the Arizona Coyotes, see if they can keep the momentum going. We'll get to that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Clayton Keller can score 50 goals. The Arizona Coyotes can make the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because of Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick whatever players you think are going to win this week to win that 100 times your money. but you can do it alongside your friends in the app in a group chat functionality. Connect with other fans, and it goes beyond hockey. You can do daily fantasy, NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football all on Sleeper, and entries can be made in just under a minute. All you gotta do is pick whether or not studs like Clayton Keller, or heck, now Michael Carcone, for all we know, will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Coyotes fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use a promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details and a locational availability. All right, Matthew, let's wrap things up on this. Let's take a look ahead for the Arizona Coyotes. What do they have coming up after winning the last 3 back-to-back? Well, they got St. Louis again, which was the last team they lost to before they took. But that was a high-scoring game. That 6-5, super high-scoring matchup that we were just like, what even is this dumb crap? Defense, no defense was played in that game the last time they played against each other. And the Coyotes actually played well for the most part up until they took so many penalties. Do the Coyotes learn from that and fix that going into their next game on Saturday?
You know what? They need to, but I want this trend to go somewhere. So out of the 3 games so far, teams have played, that 66% of them, 66% of the time, the winning team scored 6 goals. So what I want is to complete the cycle and have another team win with 6 goals. However, I want that 6-2 score. So this is the last regular season meeting. Finish it the way you started it. 6-2 win, Coyotes. They're gonna have to learn very quickly.
That would be. I would love that. To be honest, I would love to see that again. I mean, the Coyotes, again, I believe the Coyotes are the better team in this one, but and I think we're kind of going through the same problems as we did in previous seasons, in which it's interesting because on games the Coyotes we don't expect to win. Hence these last 3 games as an example. In our preview for the Gauntlet, we said, yeah, there's no way they'd probably win those, one of those, if more than that stretch of 3 games that they just faced. The likely wins would be against St. Louis.
Can I cut in with a breaking news thing real quick as we're recording? I want to rage real quick.
All right.
The NHL has officially classified Bukestad's overtime winner as an own goal and taken away the assist for Michelli and Dursey. 5 seconds ago, Mike Gould on Twitter.
I mean, let's be real. It was an own goal.
Raged though. Matthias Michelli worked so hard on that play.
Yeah, no, you're right. But if you look at the replay, it was an own goal. For a while, I was like, you know what? It's credit to Bukestad, so I'll take it. But okay, that's fair.
So bad.
but for this though, looking at that, let's try to look ahead because the Coyotes have that issue sometimes in which a team that we know they're better than, for some reason, they just play down to. It's like they'll play up to their competition and then play down to the competition. It just baffles me.
Yeah, I want to try to kind of expand slightly on what you said there. So for me, it's yes, they struggle. They've shown struggles beating teams that they are better than on paper, and they should beat on paper that are close to them. That in terms of overall rankings in the standings that are close to them. For whatever reason, they just don't get it done. You mentioned the couple of times that they just play down to competition. I definitely bring that. Blues game, they lose 2-1. Yeah, 110%. 7 penalties, ridiculous. Still not quite over that one. I do not apologize there. Kind of mad about that. So right now, I think we should be a little harsh with them. The Coyotes need to prove they're the better team. Saturday, they need to come out. They need to
100%.
secure the season split and prove that they are the better team. Because if they lose the series. Lose the season series 3-1, then you can't claim you're the better team anymore. So I need them to come out and like play, because that game where they lost 6-5, they should have won. And then it kind of just, it felt like the game, they just kind of let it go. Not trying to say they didn't try, but it just felt that way.
I am going to touch on a kind of rewind and touch on a topic you talked about in the first segment to round it out to this one. The last time they played the Blues, Juuso Välimäki wasn't playing.
True.
This time,
it's gonna be 6-2 again. Nope, we're sticking doing it.
We're sticking with it. 6-2. All right.
That's a good callback, by the way. That was great. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's why Robin gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah. Let's look a little bit past that though, because the last game of this gauntlet is Washington. I feel like that's a team that is a little bit more manageable too. They're also not towards the top anymore. I'm trying to think, because I just saw that our weekly power rankings from Locked On NHL, and I quote tweeted it, and I was like, the Coyotes just said, screw your power rankings in a more different tone, but let's see.
They're gonna be. Is that a home game? I'm trying to see. Yeah, it's
Arena. The Capitals are third in the Metro right now, on based off of power rankings as voted by fellow other hosts of the Locked On NHL channel. So yeah, they're still a good team. No longer a champion caliber team, but they're still a good team. So I think you still should probably treat them with some respect. That would be a slightly tougher game to close out on, but I feel like like I said earlier, the toughest games are behind them, and they won all those.
Yeah, but that's also where some of the hey, they should beat this team, but they don't. But also the Capitals, after a bit of a struggling start, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Robin, this team is starting to pick it up. That should motivate the Coyotes, and also a homecoming for Dylan Strome. Not gonna lie, as someone who's a Dylan Strome fan, I hope he scores 2 goals in the Coyotes. I hope the Coyotes win, but I hope he scores multiple goals in the Coyotes, because y'all were way too mean to that kid.
So the Coyotes win that game 5-2 with the only 2 goals by the Washington Capitals and by Dylan Strome.
Ovi can get some assists on that one, sure. But Dylan Strome, or Connor McMichael. Maybe McMichael can get some points. I don't really care. It's such a funny name. I love I love it. It's kind of Connor McMichael. But I want Stromer to come in and get some points, because the kid's better than most Coyotes fans give him credit. And I get it. 3rd overall, the argument is, oh, you expect more? Totally fair. But the kid also didn't pick where he was selected, and he's been a solid NHLer. Come on, let's get over it. Let's give the kid a little bit of credit.
So now this brings me to, if we're kind of taking a look at how these last 2 games of this gauntlet's going to go, I want to do another recall and go back to before this series of games started, our predictions of where this was going to be. I think you said they were just going to win no more than 2 games, obviously.
Yeah, I stand by that. I'm pretty sure I said that. All right, because think about the context. They dropped 3 in a row heading into the gauntlet. They were not playing as well as they should have. The defense was decimated by injuries, and I think at that point, I still stand by it.
And that was a team, that was a team. Yeah, they had lost a couple straight already. Yeah. So it's just like, oh God, this is not.
But now, it's a whole different story. So I think my strategy is, moving forward, I'm just going to talk about how terrible this hockey team is.
Be pessimistic.
How they're never going to achieve anything. I'm also going to talk about how they're probably going to relocate, and then when the arena deal is announced, you're welcome. I'm going to Uno reverse all the good things into this organization.
I mean, or you can be me and be very cryptic on every single one of my tweets in the last week.
I know where it's at, Robin.
Do ya now? Do ya?
Yeah, it's dirt. Right now, it is currently dirt.
It's dirt. I mean, you're not wrong.
It's North Dirt.
It's north.
Not North Dirt, but North Dirt.
Absolutely loved it. Any final thoughts before we close things off?
If the Coyotes win these next 2 games, I will do the first segment shirtless of the Capitals show.
All right. Well, I'll hold you to that. Anyways, that's going to be it for this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube, Sirius XM, and ad-free on Amazon Music. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on X at @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robin with the Y _LEANO. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer it right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.